Long ago, in the land of Israel, things were not going well. The people had forgotten God's ways. Because of this, a powerful enemy named King Jabin of Canaan ruled over them. He had a cruel commander named Sisera, and his army had 900 iron chariots. The Israelites were afraid and cried out to God for help. But God already had a plan, and it started with a wise and courageous woman named Deborah. Deborah would soon come into the scene to help the situation. Deborah was a prophetess, a judge, and a leader. People came from all over Israel to ask her for wisdom and help. She listened, prayed, and gave guidance. She was known for her faith, kindness, and strength. She encouraged the people, saying,
"The Lord sees your troubles. Be strong and trust in him. He will send help at the right time."
One day, God gave Deborah an important message. It was time to stand up against the enemy. Deborah called for Barak, a brave Israelite warrior. He arrived, looking serious. Then said Deborah to him,
"Barak, the Lord commands you. Take 10,000 men and go to Mount Tabor. God will give Sisera and his army into your hands."
I will go, but only if you go with me.
"I will go with you. But because of the way you're doing this, the Lord will give victory not to you, but to a woman."
Barak gathered his army, and Deborah went with him. They climbed Mount Tabor, ready for the battle ahead. Down in the valley, Sisera heard what was happening. He gathered his chariots and soldiers, confident he would crush the Israelites. Sisera's chariots lined up like a sea of iron. Deborah and Barak stood on the mountain, looking down. Then said Deborah to Barak,
"Go, Barak. This is the day the Lord has given Sisera into your hands. Hasn't the Lord gone ahead of you?"
Barak charged down the mountain with his men. As they ran into battle, God sent a great storm. The rain poured, and the ground became muddy. The chariot wheels got stuck. Sisera's powerful army was confused and trapped. There was storm. Sisera's soldiers were slipping, their chariots stuck, and Barak's men surrounded them. Barak and his army defeated every one of Sisera's soldiers. But Sisera, the commander, ran away on foot. Sisera was so tired and dirty, and he ran to a quiet tent in the countryside. He came to the tent of Jael, a woman whose husband was at peace with King Jabin. Sisera thought he would be safe there. Jael stepped out of her tent, welcoming Sisera with a calm smile. She said to Sisera,
"Come in, sir. Don't be afraid."
Sisera stumbled into the tent, exhausted. He said,
"Please, give me some water."
"Here, drink."
Instead of water, she gave him warm milk and covered him with a blanket. Then Sisera started feeling sleepy and asked her,
"Stand at the door. If anyone comes, tell them I'm not here."
Sisera fell into a deep sleep, and while he was sleeping, Jael did something bold and shocking. With quiet strength and courage, she drove a big tent nail with a hammer into Sisera's temple and pinned it to the ground. So the enemy commander died, and that ended his terror. Later, Barak came by, still searching for Sisera. Jael stepped out of her tent and said to Barak,
"Come, I'll show you the man you're looking for."
That day, God gave Israel a great victory. The people were free from fear. King Jabin's power grew weaker and weaker until he was completely defeated. Deborah and Barak stood before the people, singing and celebrating. To thank God for his victory, Deborah and Barak sang a beautiful song. It praised God, honored brave leaders, and remembered the courage of people like Jael.
When the leaders lead and the people willingly follow, praise the Lord.
Deborah's song reminded everyone that true strength comes from trusting God and standing up for what is right, even when it's hard. It was another peaceful time for Israel through Deborah. Because of Deborah's courage and obedience, the land of Israel had peace for 40 years. Deborah wasn't a warrior. She didn't ride a chariot. But she had something even more powerful: faith, wisdom, and courage. She listened to God and led with a strong heart. And Jael, she wasn't a soldier either. But when the moment came, she stood up with boldness and did what was right. Sometimes, God uses unexpected people to do great things. People just like you. So remember, you don't have to be the strongest to make a difference. You just have to be willing, brave, and faithful. That was the story of Deborah and how she delivered Israel from oppression. For more of such Bible videos, please subscribe, like, and share. Thanks for watching. Sometime in the ancient times, in the land of Israel, the people had forgotten about God. Again, they began worshiping other gods and doing whatever they wanted. So God allowed a group called the Midianites to take over. Every time the Israelites planted crops, the Midianites would come and steal everything: livestock, food, even their homes. The people were scared, hungry, and hiding in caves. The fields were dry, families were scared. The Midianites were burning the tents of Israelites. Humanly speaking, it was hopeless. After 7 long years, the Israelites finally cried out to God for help. And God, who never stopped loving them, had a plan. That plan started with a man named Gideon. Gideon wasn't a warrior. He wasn't a leader. In fact, he was hiding, secretly threshing wheat in a winepress, an unusual place to do it, so the Midianites wouldn't find him. An angel of the Lord appeared to him and said to him, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." And Gideon was startled and looked around and responded,
Me? How can the Lord be with us? Look at everything that's happened. Where are all the miracles our ancestors told us about?
Go in the strength you have. You will save Israel from the Midianites. I am sending you. Gideon was confused and hesitant.
But I'm from the weakest family in my tribe, and I'm the least important one in my family.
I will be with you.
Gideon wanted to believe, but he was afraid. So he asked for a sign. He prepared food and placed it on a rock. The angel touched it with his staff, and fire sprang up, consuming it. Gideon fell to his knees, amazed, and cried out,
Oh, no. I've seen the angel of the Lord face to face.
But the Lord said, "Peace be unto you. Do not be afraid. You will not die." It was time for action, and this action was to start in Gideon's own home. That night, God gave Gideon his first mission to tear down his father's altar to the false god Baal and cut down the Asherah pole beside it. Gideon sneaked out at night with 10 friends, looking nervous but determined. He was scared of what the townspeople would do, so he did it at night. In the morning, the people were furious, shouting angrily,
"Who did this? Who tore down Baal's altar? Bring Gideon out. He must die." Surprisingly, Joash, Gideon's father, stepped out boldly and said,
If Baal really is a god, let him defend himself.
From that day, Gideon was known as Jerub-Baal, which means, "Let Baal contend with him." Nevertheless, Gideon wanted to be double sure that he had the backing of God. Soon, the Midianites and their allies gathered to attack. God's spirit came on Gideon, and he called the people to join him. But Gideon still needed assurance. He knelt down and prayed, saying,
Lord, if you really want to use me to save Israel, show me a sign. I'll put this wool fleece on the ground. If the fleece is wet with dew but the ground is dry, I'll know you're with me.
The next morning, just as he asked, the fleece was soaking wet, but the ground was dry. Then he said again, nervously,
Let me ask once more. This time, make the fleece dry and the ground wet.
And again, God did exactly what Gideon asked. Now, Gideon was ready. One of the strengths of an army is the number of soldiers available and ready to fight. So, Gideon gathered 32,000 men to fight. But God had other plans. God spoke to Gideon and said, "You have too many men. If you win, Israel might think they did it on their own. Tell the people, anyone who's afraid can go home." In response, thousands of men left the camp, some hugging Gideon before they left. 22,000 soldiers left. Only 10,000 remained. Yet God said they were still too many. He asked Gideon to take them to the water and watch how they drink. Some knelt down to drink. Others scooped water with their hands. God told Gideon to keep only the ones who scooped water with their hands. That left just 300 men. Gideon's eyes were wide in disbelief and wondered, only 300? It was time to actualize the long-awaited dream. That night, God said, "If you're still afraid, go down to the enemy camp and listen." Gideon and a servant sneaked through the darkness, hiding behind rocks. A Midianite soldier was whispering to a friend soldier, saying,
"I had a dream. A loaf of bread rolled into our camp and knocked over a tent. That can only mean one thing. Gideon will defeat us."
Gideon's eyes lighting up with courage said with assurance, "It's true. God is with us." Gideon needed only torches and trumpets to achieve victory. Gideon returned, filled with courage. He gave each of his 300 men a trumpet, a jar, and a torch. He said to his men, whispering,
When I blow my trumpet, you blow yours. Smash your jars, hold up your torches, and shout, 'A sword for the Lord and for Gideon!'"
Gideon's men surrounded the Midianite camp quietly. Trumpets blast, jars smashed, flames burst into the night. All 300 men shouted, "A sword for the Lord and for Gideon!" The Midianites panicked. Confused and terrified, they turned on each other and ran. Gideon's men chased after them, but many Midianites already fled. So, with just 300 men and the power of God, Gideon defeated a massive army, and Israel was free once again. The people gathered, cheering in joy, fields blooming again, families rejoicing. The people wanted to make Gideon their king, but Gideon refused, saying, "No, I will not rule over you. The Lord will rule over you." For the rest of Gideon's life, the land had peace. The story of Gideon reminds us that God can use anyone, no matter how small or afraid they feel. Gideon didn't think he was strong enough, but with God, he became a mighty warrior. When life feels overwhelming, when you feel unqualified, remember, God doesn't need a big army. He just needs a willing heart. That was the story of Gideon and how he defeated the Midianites to deliver Israel. For more of such Bible stories, please subscribe, like, and share. Thanks for watching. It is another Bible story time. Welcome, friends. Today's story comes from the book of Judges, chapter 9, and it's about a man named Abimelech, a man who wanted power so badly and was willing to do anything to get it. But be careful what you wish for. Let's begin. Once upon a time in the Shechem city of Israel, the fields were peaceful, and townspeople were going about their daily life. After Gideon, also called Jerubbaal, defeated the Midianites, Israel had peace for many years. Gideon had many sons, 70 in fact, because he had many wives. But one of his sons, Abimelech, was different. His mother wasn't one of Gideon's wives. She was a concubine from the city of Shechem. Abimelech wasn't content being just one of many. He wanted to be king. Abimelech walked through the city, stopping to talk to the men of Shechem, saying,
"Listen, my mother's people, should all 70 of Jerubbaal's sons rule over you? Or just one man? And remember, I'm your own flesh and blood."
The leaders of Shechem liked what they heard. Abimelech was one of them, and having a king from their own town sounded good. So they gave him money from the temple of their god, Baal-berith, and with that money, Abimelech hired some rough, dangerous men to help him carry out a terrible plan. Abimelech went to his father's house in Ophrah and killed all 70 of his brothers, his own family, on one stone. Only one brother escaped. Jotham, the youngest, who ran and hid. The people of Shechem crowned Abimelech king under the tree beside the pillar in Shechem. But word reached Jotham, and he wouldn't stay silent. Jotham stood on the side of a mountain, calling down to the leaders of Shechem below, saying,
Listen to me, people of Shechem, and may God listen to you. Once upon a time, the trees wanted a king. They asked the olive tree, the fig tree, and the grapevine, but they all said no. Then they asked the thorn bush, and the thorn bush said, Come rest in my shade, but beware, fire may come out and burn the cedars. If you made Abimelech king honestly and in good faith, may you be blessed. But if not, may fire come from Abimelech and destroy you all.
Then Jotham ran for his life. His words hung in the air like a storm cloud waiting to break. 3 years went by. Abimelech ruled, but trouble was coming. God sent a spirit of division between Abimelech and the leaders of Shechem. They no longer trusted him, and soon they set up ambushes against him. In Shechem, a bold man named Gaal spoke to the people, saying,
Why should we serve Abimelech? Who is he anyway? We should serve the family of Hamor, the founder of Shechem. Let me lead, and I'll defeat him.
Not everybody welcomed Gaal's speech. Zebul, the city governor and a loyal friend of Abimelech, heard what Gaal said, and he sent word to Abimelech in secret. At dawn, Abimelech attacked. He set an ambush near the city, just as Zebul suggested. Gaal saw movement in the distance, and pointing, he said,
Look! People are coming down from the hills.
Zebul, smirking, said,
You're just seeing shadows. Where's that big talk now?
Soon it was too late. Abimelech crushed Gaal and drove him out of Shechem. But Abimelech wasn't done. He attacked the city of Shechem, captured it, and destroyed it. Then he sowed it with salt, so nothing would grow there again. Some of the people ran to a strong tower for safety, but Abimelech set fire to the tower, and 1,000 people died inside. Next, Abimelech went to Thebez and tried the same thing. The people there also ran into a strong tower. Abimelech came close, ready to burn it too. But this time, something unexpected happened. A woman appeared at the top of the tower, holding a heavy millstone. The woman dropped the heavy stone from the tower wall. It hit Abimelech on the head and cracked his skull. Abimelech, groaning in pain, then spoke to his armor-bearer, saying,
Quick, kill me with your sword. I don't want people to say I was killed by a woman.
It was a shameful thing to Abimelech to die from the attack of a woman, and so the servant killed him, and Abimelech died. And that was the end of Abimelech. He tried to make himself king, but he did it through violence, pride, and selfish ambition. In the end, his own actions came back to destroy him, and the people of Shechem, they were judged too, because they supported his evil from the start. This story reminds us that how we seek power and success matters. When we act with kindness, humility, and respect for others, we build something strong. But when we chase power through lies and harm, it never lasts. So let's be people who lead with love and live with wisdom. Thanks for watching, and remember, every story in the Bible teaches us something we can use today. For more interesting Bible stories, please subscribe, like, and share. Bye for now.